Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my user interface and user experience workshop. This is John McTarsday, and I will give you some tips on it. All right, so let's dive in. So, what is user interface and what is user experience? Well, it, it's a kind of communication with the game. User experience is, in one sense, how the users interact with the game. This includes button inputs, navigation, and accessibility. User interface is more of the console's job. It shows how the game helps users interact with it. Consistency, organization, and readability. All this gives it a feedback loop, and it helps communicate with the player to get used to the game. So let's start talking about user interface. Organization. On the surface, your user interface should look organized and consistent. What this means is you should have all your buttons just mishmashed and all over the place. Just a simple vertical or horizontal list should get the job done. Users want to know what they are trying to select and where they are navigating. So having a sign or a tab like, say, menu or options or custom games would be enough. A wireframe for your menu would be a good tool to help blueprint your UI. I recommend Figma, but I'll talk about it later. Showing the button prompts for entering and exiting your menu should always be displayed. Now, in most gaming, usually if we're doing it with PC, it's usually a mouse click. But if we're using, like, say, an Xbox controller or a different controller, we have to show that A is select, B is back, and sometimes we use another button to toggle another menu. The foreground of your menu is where most of the organization should be. So my first example for the night is going to be the menus of Halo Reach. We have we have different menus, one for main menu, one for searching, and one for custom games. In each of these menus, they have a list of options. They have a title. They each have button prompts, which involve selecting back and other menus. And on the right side of the menu, we have your list of party members because this is an Xbox game. But how each menu stands out is the different art in the background. We have different spaceships, we have aliens, and we have a planet. But the foreground is where all the text, all the consistency, and the emphasis is. And it's also the parts we have to navigate through. Consistency. You would want your UI to be not only easy to navigate, but easy to identify. Lists, inventory, and menu screens look consistent because their design is familiar to general audiences. What this means is you want to have your menus and your inventory screens should have similar fonts and formats so that nothing stands out in any way. If I have like the same format, like if it's a fantasy game and if I have just basically an old English font, I would want to add something that's more GTA format or like space format because it wouldn't stand out and it wouldn't fit the theme of our game. Your user should interact with each element to this same as any other in its class in your menu. Elements scripted like any other of that type, and the same controls to navigate and interact with. This falls more into programming or the scripting. But what it means is if we make if we have only like one type of different elements that behave the same, it would be much easier to control and interact with when developing it. And this is what we get in the Ocarina of Time's pause/inventory menu, where you have on the blue page, which is your items, you select something and it just falls into your yellow buttons, which is used for the C thing. And on the right and on the left side, which is your equipment, these things don't attach to your C buttons, but these can help change Link's appearance, or they just stay there and they just basically have their own buffs. They behave. They have the same functions, which is select, equip, or disequip, but they have different like behaviors or choices or branching operations. Emphasis. Emphasis is what the designer wants you to focus on the screen. The focus should always be in the foreground. I will repeat this again. The focus should be in the foreground. Selecting menus, lists are the most important thing to display in the front. The background is not what you want to select at all. That is literally just for style and scenery. The parts that are not going to have any interaction should be in the background. The most focus is in the middle of the screen. it, or what I mean is, in the center of the screen is where the most attention will be gained. If the visuals are too blurry or do not stand out, there is no emphasis or clarity. Don't make your menus too messy, too busy, and don't try to make it too boring that's not fun to look at. Highlighting the part of the menu where your cursor is on is good for emphasis. It's like in menus, you know how a text gets a little glow when your mouse is over it, or a text box has a complete different color. That's what I'm speaking about. Emphasis is important to design in-game heads-up displays. In Call of Duty, well, it's a different case, but you notice how in the foreground you have different parts of your first person of your player. You have your ammo, you have your kill streaks because this is Call of Duty. You have your score streak thing because this is Black Ops 3. You have your score and your mini map. And in addition, if we want to know who's on our team and who's on their team, we would need different text bubbles to show up. And we also need different color to point out who's on our side and who's on the enemy team. It helps point them out. Next is readability. Reading and understanding text is something your players should do with ease. Basically, if you're doing a story-driven game, like a dating sim, for instance, you don't want to make your text not readable, period. Text should strive to be simple, but not too minimal. Not just the writing, but the format and the style. Format should have a consistent font and size in your foreground. And basically, text has its place. You want to have larger text that tells you which part of the menu you are or which character is talking. I'm not against trying to make it seem fancy or big, but the part that your players are trying to read, you should try to make it simple or not too over the top. It's better to have bright text on dark backgrounds and darker text on bright backgrounds. This is important so the colors don't collide and there's no contrast. If you were to do the opposite of this sentence, it would be impossible to read our text. In Overwatch, funny meme aside, we have the text chat has an interesting distinction. We have orange text for the overall game match, and we have blue for basically your own team. Text even adds symbols as part of it, and you even have a label on your type box. Overwatch's chat box gets the job done. So I gave some tips about user interface. Now we're going to talk about user experience. Shift the priority to us. As players, what would we need to enjoy any game? Well, a gameplay loop, of course, but how can we support its design? Main menu, inventory, HUD, and maybe a map have information that we might want to see. But there are also ways to simplify or shorten the time to interact with or navigate with these parts of the game. Besides getting the job done, the UI could be more fun to interact with. If your audience is not satisfied with interacting with your game, how can you fix or improve on it? Well, styling helps your UI from being generic. Animations, music, transition, colors, and word fonts help contribute to the style. However, these are all for your background and should not be seen as your focus. If you want to make your background look pretty, good, but don't expect navigation to be that easy if your entire menu list is in a very busy style and kind of blends with the background. Making a UI look less generic or cluttered is more engaging to use, and it also helps for emphasis and focus. Let's talk about Persona 5, because their main menu has done something very interesting. It starts with an animation, and keeps going, and then zooms out through the P. It has a blue animating background that says press any button. Its style mimics the game, and the backgrounds still continue. Transitions to load game, and also, when you hover over a button, the background also presents new game. It's kind of interesting how this menu works. It's very animated, it has theme music, and even its characters are animated. It's very animated, what Jordan said. But yeah, this is an example that works. All right, one more Persona example: the combat. On the, on the surface level, it seems like it gets it done. You can use it as an attack, you can protect, you can use your persona or item, etc. But what actually makes this more interesting is around these buttons, they mimic the controller layout of a PlayStation. Notice how each of these buttons connect to form like your button control, and you have your basic D-pad kind of close to your L2 button. It almost matches. It almost matches it. I'm not a fan of Persona. I haven't played the games, but I really appreciate their design and especially with the UI. So another important topic I like to talk about is feedback. In-game actions create feedback to help the player respond to the particular events. Feedback is important for almost all the elements of a game. When you interact with something, you want to know if that's good, if it's bad, if I should keep doing more of that, if I want to just try less of that. It goes on very deep. And it's not and it's not for the UI, but it's for the overall game experience. And I said style, including this stuff that help give it style, but I should emphasize style really helps with the feedback, and it also makes our game more engaging and gives it more personality. All right, so now we're gonna play a game. I'm gonna play a sound based on this category of feedback: action/attack, player death, voice line/announcer, level up, item collected, victory/defeat theme. And I want you to post your answers in our meeting gen chat. All right. If everyone's okay with that, I'm gonna start playing this first sound: action attack. I'm getting choices from Red Dead, Banjo Kazooie, Isaac. This was the parry sound from Cuphead. This is basically every time you jump, you parry someone, and it's that noises. All right. I think it's gonna get much easier from this one. All right. Here is player death. Which game is that from? Yes, GTA. See how much easier that was. I wish you picked Minecraft. Ooh, we'll see. Yeah, maybe. All right, here's voice line announcer.
A new record!
Which game was that?
A new record!
Street Fighter. You were close, Larry. You are very close. Smash Melee. That is it. That is it. Brian? Yes. All right, level up. Yeah, I picked some obvious ones. All right, which was that from? Modern Warfare 2. Yes, thank you. You are making this way easier than I originally made it. Okay, item collected. Yep. Only. Oh my god, that was fast. I told you I knew I added a Minecraft. Yeah. One more time. All right. Now victory and defeat. Yep. Mario Party was the answer. So sound design and can help a lot with feedback, and it'll help you determine what's satisfying and what's not satisfying, and what'll help you be more engaged. So if you're participating in a game pitch, and if you're working on animation, sound design, or even the menus, you should always consider like feedback or what the user has interacted with and what kind of output the game will bring back. All right, that was a big topic, so let's move on. Expectations. So, what do you expect the game to provide us in its interface? Well, if we're doing something basic like stripping it down, I would say file suggestion or file selection, delete files, and our options should be at the very start of the game. And if we want to set it up, I say controls, audios, visuals, and other settings are what we want to see in our options menu. And once we select the file, what should be showed up? Well, I don't think it would have a main menu. It should just drop us into the main game. And let's say we're playing a Souls-like RPG, toggling our inventory screen or pausing the game should happen with a button press. And even in our game, we need the option to go back to the main menu or adjust our files in our game. We might want to change our files, so that's why we want to go back to our main menu. Expectations help provide a blueprint for how you want to organize your user interface for your users to interact with. And that's not to say you should exactly rip off other UI designs, because that's how these games kind of work, but it gives you a sense on what you should add next. It gives players more navigation and more ways to help navigate their game. So let's talk about the pause menu from Dark Souls. So weird sense, not pausing your game actually aside. Each menu has its own distinction. Inventory is basically your items. You can select an item to examine. You can look at all your things. You can even see your character stats. And your different items are organized in a horizontal bar, and the items you want to select are organized vertically. And the next is equipment, which is all the items you have equipped. This guy has my favorite ring in the game. He has a shield, and your character's stats and levels. It even has the name of your item. It shows which items can be equipped or unequipped, and you can enter each item, read more about it. And your third tab is called status. This actually checks your whole level. So you can see how high your like strength, dexterity, faith, etc. is. You can see your actual physical defense stats and your resistance. This guy really doesn't like getting cursed. And of course, the last tab is your settings, which for a PC game, it usually has more settings like VSync, graphical settings, keyboard bindings, and yeah, basically your typical pause menu should have an option setting or a character setting. If you're doing like an RPG or a 3D game, an inventory or a map screen might help. But it's also what your audience expects your game genre to be. Okay, let's talk about accessibility. It's important for all types of players, including with disabilities or other issues that affect their playability. Game settings help your game to be more inclusive to other players. Subtitles, device settings, key bindings, and aim assist sensitivity, push to talk, etc. Some players are sensitive to flashing images or expect a colorblind feature. In games like Katana Zero, they open with a warning screen for flashing lights. And without accessibility, some of these issues can hurt the user experience. I got into Smash Bros. Ultimate this year, and this was the year when I realized that having different control settings or control options are important for every fighting game. Not so. Let's talk about the button layout. Isn't that important? But what you can do is adjust the C stick for a tilt attack. You can make it so it doesn't charge Smash all the time. It just does your tilt A or tilt up. It makes it playing the Smash Bros. More flexible. And there's even other settings if you like to play it differently. And it's not just for this control. You can also do the same thing for your GameCube control. It behaves the same like any other control that's compatible with this game. And it's also very helpful for new players who are more used to the GameCube controller to play. All right, so my last topic for this presentation is going to be motion controls. I'm not going to argue when motion controllers are better or worse for gaming, but I'm just going to say they have a place when they're intuitive to use. Always use both controller navigation and emotion navigation when you're talking about games on the Wii or the Xbox Kinect. Some games use both the controller and the sensor bar for the UI. Without this option, the UI becomes much harder to navigate. Devices such as the Xbox Kinect have a microphone feature, but there also has to be a type of response for the voice input on the UI. So this is Sonic Free Riders. It's a Kinect game, but it doesn't have the choice to move or navigate the menu with a controller. And this is what happens when a menu has to rely on nothing but your motion.
Enter the ring. Enter the ring. Race for the best time on each course. Team up in a real.
Yeah, you can see why a controller needs to be used for motion control games. It becomes a slog to like Like select everything, and keep in mind you can only select like this, the most closest circle. You can't select any of these 5 things. You have to hold this button back to go back to the previous menu. But yeah, small rant over. That's
Enter the room.
no. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about this UI presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Jonah. For some reason my mic wasn't working, but you said this is the rest of your presentation already, right?
Yeah, the presentation is that was it. That was everything.
No problem, no problem. I just didn't want to like intrude on you because we do have a very special announcement to make.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very, very special one. So I guess this announcement is going to be the first thing that you guys hear for everybody who's in this call right now. You guys are going to be the first people to hear about this. Besides our officers, of course, because we have been planning about this. But let me just share my screen real quick. All right, you guys. So we at the CPP Game Dev Club, we're actually going to be hosting a game jam for this semester. It's going to be happening from October 29th to October 31st. So during the Halloween weekend. Don't worry though, it's going to end at 3 p.m. So if you guys have any plans for Halloween night, we do actually have um, basically it ends before Halloween night. So if you guys have any plans for like partying or trick-or-treating or anything like that, um, you guys will be perfectly fine. So for anyone who is interested in developing a game within the given time period, let me just go to the next page here. So some more info about the jam right here. You guys get to form game development teams, very similar to the ones that you develop here in the club. You can also work solo on your games if you would like. Basically, you have to make a horror game, so specifically a horror game, so it has to be scary and either like with jump scares or if you want it to be creepy or atmospheric. It does have to be a horror game though. You basically have 48 hours to crunch out a game. And by the way, so for anyone who is unaware of what a game jam is, basically a game jam is an event where either groups of people or people who work solo have to develop a game within a certain time period and also within a given theme. Now, the theme will actually be announced on the day that the event starts, that the game jam starts. So on October 29th at 3 p.m., there is going to be a kickoff presentation where we go a lot into detail about the different we go more into detail about the game jam and the whole event, and then we're also at the very end of that meeting we will be presenting the theme for that game jam. So all of your games have to include the theme in some way, either like through the mechanics or through the story, or if it's like literally in the game. You'll see what the theme is during the game jam. So yeah, and very special one, this is not limited to CPP. So any college student or high school senior can join. So if you guys have any friends from other high schools, or sorry, well, yeah, if you have friends who are seniors in high school, or if you guys have friends in other colleges, as long as they attend a college in the US, they are free to join in. So yeah, let's see. There's a QR code for the Discord server link right there if you guys would like to join the server. Um, yeah. That's basically all I really have for this announcement. There is a lot more info included in the Discord server. I will also be posting. Actually, let me post the link right now. There will actually be a link to the Itch Jam as well. It's going to be hosted on itch.io. If you guys are worried about it being in person, it's all going to happen online, so you guys don't have to worry about meeting in person or anything like that. Though game jams in person are pretty fun. So let me just go ahead and post. So here is the link to the itch page, and that includes also a link to the Discord, but just in case, here is also a link to the Discord. So yes, that is the game jam. So again, it's going to be happening on October 29th, starting at 3 p.m. all the way to October 31st, ending at 3 p.m. as well. So that's exactly 48 hours to create a game. Oh, a separate server because we're also inviting people from outside CPP. So this isn't a contained CPP event. So it's not like only CPP students can be a part of the game jam. Any student that is a college student in the US or a high school senior in the US may join the game jam. All right. That is technically it for my very, very special announcement. Again, this is super exciting for us to be holding this game jam. Oh, I guess this is really just to tie you in even more. The top three winners, the top three teams or solo developers of the game jam will actually be winning a prize, a cash prize. You will get more information about what that prize is and just what you will be winning at the presentation. So stay tuned.
But yeah, come join Halloween Horror Jam if you like to have get more development experience. It's worth going. Got a lot of horror game. Yeah, if you like Silent Hill or Resident Evil, this will probably be up your alley.
Yeah, exactly. It's also a really great way. We are trying to get some really, really cool judges a part of this game jam. So if you guys are interested in creating a game and would like some advice from these really cool judges we're gonna get, you guys are welcome to get more information about just like not just like the game that you're working on for the game jam, but also any games that you make in the future. Just like some advice if you'd like. All right, if there aren't any more questions, you guys are good to go. Thank you so much for attending the workshop, and yeah, hope to see you guys at the game jam.
Have a good rest of your night.